He rose to the occasion.
Oh, I am absolutely blessed to be an actor.
Yeah.
All I had to do that day was show up on set, have really, really amazing ice cream.
That day was amazing.
Yeah.
I did a self-tape for 4 years later of 4 scenes all by myself.
All right, on 11th of July, on Lionsgate Play releases this delightful series called 4 Years Later. I've just been shown 2 episodes as a preview, and I tell you, I just loved it. I can't wait to watch more. It's already getting rave reviews in Australia and Canada, both places where it's already seen a release. And all of us in India deserve to see it. So please watch it on Lionsgate Play and then come and thank me for referring it. My old friend Shahana, how are you,
You're
darling?
very good, mother. Always a pleasure to see
I haven't
And
seen you
you're
since 24. Where have you been? What do you do?
I took a scenic route.
You hibernate.
Hibernate.
Like I say, I'm really inspired by Daniel Day-Lewis. So
Oh.
I take a lot of time.
Yeah, but seriously, does it... Because there is a theory that says you've got to constantly stay in touch with your craft.
Right.
Need not necessarily be on celluloid or on cinema, but some people go back and work in theatre, the theatre. Some people go back to acting school, whatever they do. Go down to Kerala.
Yeah.
So how do you keep in touch with your craft when you don't have back-to-back projects?
I love reading. I think that really kind of opens my perspective to new characters and new stories. And so I'm always reading something or the other. I am an avid gardener, and I think that kind of grounds me to the reality of things.
Talk to your plants, and I mean that seriously.
100%.
Sure, he does.
I
Yeah,
talk to
yeah.
my plants, I sing to my plants, and it teaches you so many things about life, gardening.
Yeah.
You know?
And that is practice. Practicing your skills as an actor.
Yeah,
Talk to them,
I mean-
react to them.
Tomorrow, if I have to ever play a farmer's role, I think I'll be able to nail it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good with my hands.
But also, I actually feel in the same theory, I believe that your biggest, way of being, of improving your craft as an actor is to live life.
Yeah.
So if you
So
live
go
life,
away and take that break and
you
then
can
come.
do as much training, practice, this, that, you can keep doing back-to-back work. But if you're not self-reflective and observant of life and people and emotions around you, you're never going to really learn how to,
Interesting. Shriya Pilgaonkar was telling me just a couple of days ago during an interview, she said she always travels after a project gets over. The travel might not be some exotic destination. She might travel to Alibag. But she travels because she needs to just kind of clear her mind, decompress and come back.
Fill the cup. When you're performing, when you're acting, when you're doing that, you're pouring yourself into it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to take a step back and, fill that cup again, so to say.
Yeah.
And
So feel no pressure that the whole world loved you in Santosh. And how do you beat that?
And then I initially hated watching myself in it. So there's double pressure there.
No, but these things don't happen in linear fashion, right? It's not as though Santosh gets over and then you sign 4 years later. I want to know, was 4 years later
Actually,
earlier signing?
I did a self-tape for 4 years later of 4 scenes all by myself because I'm one of those people who won't even tell anybody to come and give me lines. I record my lines and I play the recording of the lines with gap for me to perform, and I'll put camera angles and everything and with a tripod. And I did it on my one day off that I had in Santosh, where I'd hardly slept. In the shooting in Lucknow, in my hotel room, I did the audition and sent it. And right after I finished Santosh, I had maybe 2 months off, and then we started this.
Wow. It's an interesting question. The first thing that strikes you when you watch the show is that there is an inherently local flavor to it. And it's not as though one knows it's an India-Australia co-production, but it's not as though Indian people went like Yash Chopra to Switzerland, shot and came back. It's very local. So, my first question to him off the mic was that, saying is the directors, the writer, all Indian Aussies, and he confirmed it. So why don't you just repeat that? Will you talk about the Australian element? Yeah.
It'll be my pleasure. So this show is written by Mithila Gupta. She's our showrunner, executive producer, writer. And she was born in Jaipur and stayed here till the age of 4. And then she migrated with her parents to Australia. So a lot of the inspiration behind the story is from her personal life. And she's phenomenal, extremely talented. We had 2 women directors as well, Mohini Hersi and Fadia Abood. And Mohini was her mother was South African Indian.
Yes.
And father was an Australian. Fadia is from Lebanon.
Yes.
So we got a mix culture show, and all of them got their unique perspectives. And the funny thing is that all of them, could relate to the show. When we were shooting in India, our crew, all of them were like, hey, this scene, I've lived this scene. And even in Sydney, when we were shooting and with the Aussie crew, a lot of them were like, hey, you know what? Even though this story is very Indian, but the feelings is this is a conversation I've had, maybe with my dad or with my girlfriend. So even though the show might be Indian and very local, the issues that we tackle are quite universal that way.
Interestingly, Tanishta did a India-Australia co-production with Brett Lee.
Yeah.
And Tanishta had said one of the joys of filming in Australia is you would think that there's that one commonality, which is cricket. But there's an abiding love for Indian films. Did you feel that way when you met locals and things like that? Yeah.
We didn't actually end up meeting that many locals, I suppose.
You were not actually. I find it interesting that it's a suburb of Sydney. It's not even like Sydney. At least the 2 episodes that I've caught.
Right.
What is it called? I don't know. Malabar.
Marlow Street.
Marlow.
Yeah.
Like she refers to it as Marlow. Marlow in Sydney. No, that's okay. It's okay. I mean, it's a name. Yeah, Marlow.
Yeah. I mean, we were still staying in Sydney, but the reference and the shooting areas were obviously to suggest like somebody that's come to study and then it wouldn't be in the city center. It's not possible. So it was also that it's to show that it's not really, like you said, it's a suburb, but it was, I mean, I think that there is also, we forget that Australia is also a Commonwealth state, right? So there's a lot of that similarity as well in some sense.
Damn colonials. What I also love is the fact that, you see, it is such a stigma to say that somebody or people who go in for an arranged marriage are regressive or their parents are regressive, because this girl is actually extremely progressive.
Yeah.
But she says openly, she says, I haven't been able to find somebody for myself, so I'm okay.
To try this.
Meeting people. And she moves on, I mean, swiftly. Because even though, I mean, she likes the guy, but she's out on the next date,
Yeah.
I think that's a revelation, because normally with movies that explore the topic of arranged marriage, it's always, ghungat ke niche and this and that. That must have appealed to you.
Very much, because also I feel like I'm generally a person who likes to be more exploratory in themes and topics and not looking at it from a rigid perspective, And so this was really refreshing, because I do believe that today even, dating apps and all are, in a way, it's a kind of arrangement between the two people themselves, but it's not particularly different. I remember, my friends back in the day, like, who were much older than me, but them talking about finding very interesting matches on Shadi.com and all, like somebody who was a teacher for young kids in Uganda in a camp. You wouldn't imagine that person would be on Shadi.com, but sometimes people are, because you're busy working, you're busy doing other things, you don't have time, but you do have that desire to have partnership. So it was interesting for me to, and I've seen it in my friend circle as well, when people find it hard to find the right kind of matches, then to go into a space where you know that you're going to meet people who are looking towards a common future, looking towards a long term.
Yeah, looking to settle down and looking to start a...
The same way that in these apps also, it's like I'm looking for something serious or I'm not, or you know the agenda. So I thought that was really cool, and I loved the fact that it explored, you can't decide who you fall in love with.
Correct.
Right? You can put 4 people in front of you and say, choose who you love. You can't. So she may have had an idea of what kind of person she would fall in love with. And that's also what I like, that there's such opposites, but they're also so complementary to each other. And that's also something that we forget in relationships. You're always looking for similarity and you're not looking for complementary nature. So those were all the things and of course the fact that Sridevi's outer personality is a lot like me. maybe not what she's seeking and looking for in terms of maybe that relationship being central and family and all that is not so much my focus. But other than that, her persona is a lot like me, and I, as you know, get to show it very little. So it was refreshing for me to be able to also just be myself a little bit more in front of the camera.
Yeah, and Yash could really see that, and she lit Yash up in a way where she challenged Yash to think differently, to be more open, to start getting more in touch with who he is, by asking those kind of questions where he really didn't have a way to introspect, but she kind of helped him do that. Yeah.
Another thing that really interested me, which I again liked about the story in the screenplay, was the fact that it explores migrant culture, independent of economic privilege. We have household help who come in from Bihar and UP. They're not able to bring their families with them. You ask them कि घर वाले कहाँ हैं? हाँ भी बच्चे गांव में हैं साहब, और साल में एक बार जाता हूँ देखने के लिए. But middle class people who go abroad have pretty much the same problem, which is I need to go set myself up, and then I will call my wife or my partner or whatever it is, which I thought was very interesting, because then it is not dependent on only the so-called underprivileged sections of society. People who are well-to-do also go through that.
Absolutely.
And from your perspective, that's an interesting thing to feed on.
Yeah, very true. Because what happens is we see just one aspect, like you said, of the workers who come in and they show up, they do their jobs, but what they're going through, no one really knows. And this is what we've explored in this show, with Yash going there, giving a good, showing a good front. He's happy, he's settled, he's trying to make things work. But it's eating him up inside. The loneliness is getting to him.
And the pressure.
Yeah. So the pressure of work and of having to provide for his family, to do well, to also find a way in the new society, in the new country, and to have friends and not being able to make friends, wanting connection, but not knowing how to, because he's always stayed in one place. And at the same time, of course, missing your love. There's all these aspects is what we've explored, and that kind of does the unraveling of Yash.
Yeah.
That happens to us.
There are also a couple of interesting characters who have been introduced. I mean, they get introduced in episode number 2, and I'm yearning to know more about them. There's a girl called Jamal.
Yeah. The brilliant Taj Ali.
Yeah.
And there's this guy you meet at a bar. Very interesting, very hippie-looking character. Are they local actors? Are they actors from Australia? Tell me a little bit about them.
We had like a few prominent actors from Australia. We had, of course, Taj. We had
Taj.
Taj Aldeep, yeah.
Aldeep, yeah. She is from Syria, or she?
Yes, she came from Syria.
She did come from Syria.
Her family came from Syria.
And she's based in Australia. And we had Kate Box, who you haven't seen yet. She becomes a very prominent character later with she and her have a great Gabby. Her character's name is Gabby, and she's very popular and very big in Australia as well. Yeah. So I had the privilege of working a lot with her because a lot of my scenes were with her. We had Rob, who is an actual Indian Australian, but he grew up there, and he plays his senior. And it's a very interesting dynamic because he talks about, like, there's one dialogue that comes later when he asks him, "So, you're Indian. Where are you from?" And he's like, "Sydney." Because that reality.
Yeah, she's trying to connect with this other brown Indian dude.
Yeah.
And he's like,
"Which part of India are you from?" And he's like,
Roy
"Sydney."
Joseph, lovely actor he's also.
He's a great guy, lovely guy. So we had, wow, I'm blanking out on his name. I'm so bad with names. Matt, yes. Matt, who was the character that you were talking about. So Matt also has a few scenes in the thing, but there was a wonderful bunch of people that came together thanks to SBS and Easy Tiger, because they had that relationship with those people. And it was really special actually for us to be suddenly playing a lead with people who otherwise are celebrated and really popular in Australia, but they were playing, in the scheme of things, they were playing secondary characters. But
they were supporting us.
But they were so good. Like, we had such a fabulous time working with them.
Yeah.
And that's what's interesting, that their desire to want to collaborate in this kind of a space, and the fact that, even for Australian audiences, there were a lot of actually, most people would think that this show would be watched largely by the diaspora, which may be true for sure. But I had a personal experience of bumping into somebody in the middle of Koh Phangan, which is anyway a remote island in Thailand, where an Australian woman who's next to me said, "Are you Shahana Goswami?" And I said, "How do you know who I am?" And she said, "Because I just saw your show 4 years later and I can't believe you're in front of me right now."
Wow.
And I was like, wow. And even on Instagram, there are people who... Absolutely. Because that person has never seen anything of mine before. They have just discovered me today. So I'm forever new. I'm forever a debutant, know. So,
what a great show to be remembered.
I know.
By,
Imagine.
And what a great character.
Yeah.
So did you have an intimacy coach
Yes, we did.
for your scenes?
Yes, we had one in India.
There
Her name was Ankita.
Does that help? I mean, in some
absolutely.
people have said it really helps. Other people have said no, we used to do it without one before, and we used to do it the good old-fashioned way. It's okay. I just want your comments on.
Oh yes, we had the lovely Ankita here, and intimacy is also a language, right? It's the language is of physical intimacy. There's a whole choreography. There's a language between the two actors, and to be able to explore that in a safe space with someone who's knowledgeable, who has experience, and who can guide the actors through this whole journey and make them feel safe, and to collaborate on that. And I think that's very, very essential for any actor to be able to feel safe in those kind of vulnerable states where you're also exploring intimacy, exploring physical touch.
And emotions, playing emotions through it, right?
So it's a whole properly choreographed thing, and Shahana was obviously, of course, she's amazing in that. And Ankita did help a lot during this process, because I was new to this.
Yeah.
I hadn't really done intimacy before on screen, so it was tough for me to do that. But they made my life really, really...
No, I mean, I think it was... I would also say that this was the first time I was working with an intimacy coach. For all the things that I've done in my life...
so it's an interesting perspective, because he has never done it before, so it's his first time.
But for me, it was the first time having already done so many intimate scenes throughout my life. But I also recognize the fact that I am a different kind of person. I am naturally much more open, and I have a lot of comfort with my body, and I have that kind of... To me, when I think of it as work, it anyway doesn't matter. So I've always had that ease with my body in that sense. So it was never difficult. In fact, I have always been the one comforting the men, because it is difficult. I think in these situations, it's especially difficult for the men, because you're constantly worried about what's the boundary. You don't want to make someone else feel uncomfortable. There's always, this fear that anatomically also there is more things that can be shift and change in a man than in a woman physically, that make things up. Anyway, but there are so many things, right? So in that sense, I feel like I think I saw the importance of, especially in this situation, because I remember, we laugh about it now, about in the beginning, in one of our auditions that we did, right? The first audition, we had to do an impromptu scene.
Yeah.
And now me being me and callous and kind of not thinking about anything, the scene was such that at the end of it, I just gave him a peck. And I saw his sudden thing, and I was like, oh shit,
I wasn't prepared for that.
That wasn't in the script.
And I feel bad, because I'm like, if I was a man and I did this, it would be totally wrong. But, so then I was like, I should maybe... But then in my head, I was thinking, I already knew that the show had the kind of intimacy and sexuality that it did. And he didn't know. So that's when I realized that he doesn't know that. Because otherwise he may have had a different... So for me, I became very nervous. I was like, if this is his reaction to a peck, what is he going to do when we have to do lovemaking scenes, And then...
Watch 4 years later to find out.
Exactly. Like, I have to say that from that day...
I wanted to say something, but it'll sound really wrong, but I'm going to say
Just say
he rose to the occasion. It just came out. And I don't mean it in any other way. But
Yes. It's perfect.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, kudos to him, and kudos to this whole process. I must say, both Ankita and... remind?
Chloe.
Both Ankita and Chloe. Chloe was our intimacy coordinator in Australia. Both of them really helped in being able to the point where actually the scene that you're talking about, which is the last scene in episode 2, was entirely choreographed by us.
Oh wow, well done.
And it was him taking charge, and I was like, oh my God, what's going on?
Yeah,
that day I was so proud of him. I was like, listen, kudos to you. I bow down to you because your journey from like wincing at a peck to this is huge. Also things like on set that, being nude and he was so comfortable by then. And
but they must have taken precautions having minimal people on their set.
That stuff, of course. But
set.
still, I'm saying when you're self-conscious, it's in your mind. It can be with 5 people. It can be with anyone. When he lost it completely, like he lost all that self-consciousness completely, which is really merit to him. Yeah.
And did you get any downtime in Australia? Did you guys get to travel around? It's such a lovely country.
We shot in all these beautiful places.
Yeah.
Like there was this one day where I went on set and I was like, wow, I am absolutely blessed to be an actor.
Yeah.
All I had to do that day was show up on set, have really amazing ice cream.
That day was amazing.
Yeah, and sitting at the beach, looking at the waves, and that was my day. That's the only scene we shot for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, what a great life. And I'm so blessed.
But did you go out of Sydney? Or
No, we were just around Sydney. We didn't really get time.
Well, they have to go back then again and do all the Penguin Islands and the Kangaroo Islands.
Yeah.
There's so much to do.
Yeah, there's so
it's
much.
A continent.
Yeah.
Yeah. And was it linear in the sense, did you finish the Jaipur ones and then go there? Because what happens is there are intercuts, of the Jaipur life with the Australia life.
I'll tell you. So now, our Aussie friends, they love playing with danger. So they're the ones, they'll go swim with the sharks, grab the crocodile by the tail, shoot the season finale on the first day of the shoot.
Exactly. So much of Jaipur is actually before, but you also have episode 8.
Season finale on the first day, yep.
Yes. So we've shot that first. Imagine.
Wow.
Which was obviously emotionally taxing and physically taxing also actually because of, no spoilers, but whatever.
But that was a production requirement because we had that area available only for location for those particular days, and because it was right in the beginning of the shoot, so you don't really have a lot of options to go linearly. In 24 I did, which was really cool because it was all episode wise, but we were jumping from episode to episode, and my journey in each episode is different because there is Yash discovering himself, then Yash unraveling, then Yash rediscovering a new version of himself. So I had to really chart that, and because we were jumping through episodes, I had to know where I am emotionally in the scene. But that's the job of an actor.
And that's the job in film acting, which I feel like, however much you choose to try to even make it, comfortable or manageable for an actor. Firstly, we forget that, yes, we are the face of it, but there's a huge machinery behind you, which is way more intricate in terms of, and requires much more prioritizing in that sense. So let's say you take even a location, but you still can't go linear, because it just does not, the requirements of everything else just doesn't align with that. So, but I feel like, as a film actor or, behind the camera, in front of the camera acting, you are playing an obstacle race. That is your game. It's like, how do you make someone feel that when I'm looking at the bottom of the camera at a bloody box, and I imagine that there are tearful eyes there and I'm emoting like it's my co-actor, that's part of it.
Yeah, we do live in our own heads.
Lovely. Guys, 11th of July on Lionsgate Play, it stars Shahana, it stars... Why do you say Akshay Ajit Singh? Why do you have 2 names?
Ajit Singh is my father's name.
Oh, how sweet.
Yeah.
So it's Akshay
Ajit
Ajit, but everybody calls you Akshay.
Yeah.
So Akshay is in it. It's called 4 Years Later. Please go binge watch it. Thank you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We had a lovely time.
94.3 Radio 1.